Welcome to my show, The Genius Code, Alan. It is such a pleasure and such an honor to have you. I read your book in 2020. And it's a book surrounded by geniuses. It's not a book that's very readily available in India. And I was sitting at JW Marriott, and they have a very elite bookstore where they get books from different parts of the world, books that are not very, I would say, easily available. And I love the title, Surrounded by Geniuses. So I thought, hey, if I think I'm a genius and the only one, here's a man who's saying you're surrounded by them. So how am I missing that? And that book really helped me respect people. It helped me derive the genius out of them. So thank you very much for coming here. I want to know more from you, as do my readers and audience. But before that, I just wanted to put that right up front so I can focus on the interview. I want to introduce you, and your introduction, even when I look on your website, is so unique, is so real, is so human. There's no faff about it, and which tells me that you're a real guy. Yeah? You're not doing something because it's external to you. You're doing it because that's who you are. So I'm going to read it out because this is not what people hear and get to see often. So it says, Dr. Alan Gregerman. By the way, shall I call you Dr. Alan, or is Alan?
You can call me Alan. That's perfect.
Okay. So it says, Dr. Alan Gregerman is a highly respected and award-winning author. I vote for that. Keynote speaker, business consultant, entrepreneur, teacher, community volunteer, and an all-around nice guy who has been called one of the most original thinkers in business today and the Robin Williams of business consulting. I have not read an introduction like that. So first, I want to know, who are you, Dr. Alan Gregerman?
Well, first, thanks for letting me be on this program. I'm delighted to share ideas with you, and I've been delighted to learn about a lot of your work and ideas. So I think of myself as an innovation consultant. And the core of what I do is I help companies, organizations, and all of the people in them to unlock their genius. And that's really the passion I have. That's to help people, everybody, basically, at every organization, to see their untapped potential and to realize that untapped potential by understanding some things that I've grown to know over the last, 25 or 30 years. I guess people will notice I have a little bit of gray hair. So maybe it's 25 or 30 years. Yep. And when you think about it, I like to think that I'm doing the things that I'm regularly encouraging our customers and the people I work with to do. And so by that, I like to think about the fact that I try to approach each day by being humble and curious and respectful and purposeful. And so if I think about kind of the four guiding principles of my work and my life, they're those things. Humble meaning I wake up every day knowing that I don't know very much, that there's so much to know and so many possibilities. And I want all of the organizations and people we work with to understand that the world is filled with ideas and possibilities. And even if they're in a very successful organization or they've been very successful in their career, they only know so much. And so waking up each day with a sense of humility that I could learn more, that I don't know that much, that other people know things, is a remarkably important thing and kind of a basic thing about life. The second thing I want people to think about is we should wake up every day being curious. The reality is curiosity is our kind of greatest gift. We were all born with the ability to be curious. And yet somewhere between the sandbox or the school bus and the world of adult work, most of us lost the knack for being curious. And curiosity is really how we're going to unlock innovation and genius. And we'll spend some time, I'm sure, talking about that later. The third is the simple notion of being respectful. And so there are roughly 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Oh my God, it's 7.5 now?
I think it's 7.5, but and I think 1.4 billion of them live in India.
Yes.
And so I honestly believe I can learn something new and valuable from anyone else on the planet. But I have to respect them. Okay. So you mentioned in the introduction kindly that I was a doctor, though I can't heal the sick. I actually have a PhD in geography, which is really part of my passion for kind of understanding places and a world filled with ideas. Having said that, I've had the privilege of getting a PhD, and I've had the privilege of going to perfectly reasonable universities that some people would say are really kind of exceptional places. That doesn't mean I know any more than someone who might not have had a lot of formal education or might live in a small village somewhere in India or Asia or Latin America. But I have to approach the world every day being respectful of everyone and knowing that everyone knows something that would be important for me to know and important for all the people I work with to know. So that's respectful. And then I want to think about the fourth thing being that I think, and it ties in, I think, to a lot of the work that you do, and that's simply the notion that we have a chance to make a difference in the world if we're more purposeful. If we wake up each day wanting to make a difference in something that really matters to us and something worth doing, and then we focus our kind of humility and our curiosity and our respectfulness around being remarkable at that.
It's so wonderful to hear this from you, Alan, because a lot of times, we see a projection of greatness, but I'm not 100% sure if the source also holds that. So it's very reassuring to hear that from you. I'm very curious, like how, I'll tell you how I started my career as a motivational speaker. I was always looking for success guidance. I came from a, lower middle class background, didn't have enough examples of success. So I was always looking, finding, and in that I started to apply and see results, and I was very compelled to share it with others. And it's that compelling drive that, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too, is what actually got me to being a speaker. So how did you take this up as a profession, to speak with people, to inspire them, to raise them higher toward their potential?
Oh, that's a fair question. So I actually never started out to be a speaker, but I was, while I was in graduate school, a lecturer at the University of Michigan, and I lectured on kind of the history of cities and why cities today are places filled with ideas and possibilities and energy. And I have to admit, I kind of enjoyed preparing for and giving lectures, first to kind of spark people's thinking, second to share ideas, and third to get a sense of the feedback of people as they thought about the ideas I was sharing and why they might be valuable. That got me starting to think about just kind of the potential that we have as speakers, again, being kind of humble and curious and purposeful, to start to share ideas, letting people know at the outset that we only know so much and that our learning is a work in progress. Well, it turned out when I left graduate school, as opposed to being a university professor, I decided to go into business. And in business, there was the same need to kind of inspire people to share ideas, to get them to think in new ways about what was possible, to tell stories that would get them thinking in new ways. I love when you kind of regularly share stories online. It gets me thinking in kind of new ways. But what I found was that I was fairly good at getting people kind of energized and inspired and stretching their thinking. And so that kind of led me to the work I do. Now, I should say,
Right.
I don't speak full time.
Hmm.
So I speak about 25% of the time, and that's kind of deliberate. The other 75% of the time, I'm kind of doing research or working with our consulting
Wow.
customers. And
Hmm.
the reason I do that for the work that I do is it helps to keep me fresh and thinking and engaged, and I hope practical to the customers that we have. And when I speak, I hope that then for them, I can speak as somebody who's constantly learning and growing and kind of rolling up his sleeves and trying to learn about new projects that would be valuable to them.
Oh, that's amazing. It's like you sound like the artist. I have a lot of friends who are artists, singers, musicians, and they say that exactly what you said, that 25% of my time actually goes in singing and 75% goes in practice, riyaz, they call it, in preparation and so on. So, and that is why they are where they are. There is a volume of preparation and other stuff that goes into the making of what you see on stage. So that's very nice. So give me some tips, you may have given to a client. So in general, let's say I'm a writer, I'm an executive, something that you worked on recently. See, I'm always this stealer for, success tips and
Oh, perfect.
yes.
And so let me even kind of build a little bit on what we were just talking about, and that will lead into a couple of tips. So
Sure.
part of the reason I do a lot of consulting and I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of wandering around and I speak 25% of the time is, as probably most of the people who are listening to this will realize, the world is changing super fast. Now, my guess is in every generation, people thought the world was changing super fast, but it absolutely is changing super fast today. Technology is changing really fast. Business models, ways of doing things, customer preferences, all kinds of things are changing really, really fast. So that leads me to thinking about the types of advice I might give to someone, whether they're a student or a business executive or an entrepreneur. I think in a world changing super fast, it's even more important for us to be humble. Because the reality is, the pace of new knowledge is happening much faster than our ability to digest it, even if we're simply trying to digest it in our own field. And so I want people to always be open to learning new things and to learning quickly and asking questions, but to always realizing that they can't know it all, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. I also want them to realize that the things we've always known are no longer going to simply carry the day for us. And so that's a good reason as well to regularly be out there learning new things. Is the stuff I knew 10 years ago, some of it's relevant today, but a lot of it is kind of outdated. And so I want people to think about that. Now, what does that mean for different types of folks? Well, for students, I think it means that I should be more eclectic or open to a lot of different ideas. If I think
Right.
about the leading universities in India or the United States or all over the world, they're trying to train people to be specialists. They're trying to get people to sign up to be in a different discipline, whether it's computer science or economics or healthcare or whatever it is. That's all well and good, but what we really need are well-rounded people who can
Yeah.
understand a lot of different topics and connect a lot of dots and try new things. It turns out the more I know about something, the less likely I am to try really new things. And so that's
Right.
a challenge. So for students, I want them to be curious, open-minded, learn a bunch of different things, try new things, realize I can't know it all, but that the faster I'm able to learn new things, the more valuable I am. To business executives, I want them to do the exact same thing. One of the things we do in our work is we kind of help companies and organizations to disrupt themselves before they become disrupted. And so
Mhm.
imagine that in a world changing super fast, people over a weekend drinking a premium quality malted beverage and eating their favorite street food are likely to be able to come up with a new and better way to do what most of us do. And if they know a lot about technology, they can use technology to change the game really quickly. Um, Business executives need to make sure they create organizations that always realize they can be disrupted, and as a result, are always looking to think in new ways about how to deliver greater value to the customers they serve, whether those customers are individuals or businesses. And so, if that's the case, then the first and foremost job of business executives is to say, we need to do things differently. We need to be constantly, just like entrepreneurs, ready to do things differently. This means that I need to inspire all of my people to be more creative and innovative. I need them to ask the right questions. I need to question everything we do. I need to create a culture of innovation in which regularly people believe it's okay to try new things, because that's the only way we're going to be successful. And if I think about advice that I give to entrepreneurs I work with, I always say to them, look, the world is always going to present ideas. Your job as entrepreneurs do is to regularly read the marketplace and think about where there either are gaps in the marketplace, services that haven't been provided yet, solutions or products that people could benefit from, but they haven't seen yet? Or what are things that are going on in the marketplace in which we say, this isn't particularly good. Let's figure out a better way to do this. I always find whenever I get frustrated and say, gosh, I wish this was better, that's an opportunity for an entrepreneur to be more innovative. So those are the things I like to think about that are really at the heart of why it matters to all of us to be particularly innovative and energized and humble and curious and respectful and purposeful.
Yes, that was very well articulated, Alan. And I like how you put it in perspective for everybody from every field. So thank you for that. Your book, Surrounded by Geniuses, the title itself is so intriguing because we've been, raised to believe that geniuses are a select few, that everybody is not. Yes, but when you say surrounded by geniuses, you open up my mind that it's not just one, everyone is like that. And that has to come from a person who truly believes in human potential, who believes in the uniqueness. So, could you tell me the root of the book and what is your own core philosophy around geniuses?
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So the idea behind the book is really quite simple. When I started as an innovation consultant a few years ago, it was clear to me that there was a widely held belief that certain people and certain organizations were more innovative than others, that people were wired to be creative and innovative, and that they were artists or scientists or folks who were kind of either highly trained or had a natural ability to kind of think in new ways. And that wasn't very many people. That was just a few of us. What I discovered was that people at all levels and all walks of life had the ability to be brilliant, but what they needed was an environment that welcomed their brilliance and an organization that was open to hearing their ideas. Now, let's step back for a second, because one of the things I've discovered in all my research is what I call the 99% rule. And the 99% rule is both liberating, and it really gets at the heart of my philosophy about innovation. So imagine this. Throughout the course of human history, and humans have been wandering around the planet for quite a while, and there have been roughly 7,000 distinct cultures on Earth. But throughout the course of human history, it turns out roughly 99% of all new ideas have been based on someone else's thinking or something that somebody found in nature that sparked their curiosity or imagination. So in essence, humans or animals or plants were doing remarkable things. So if that's what happens, if that's how innovation occurs, that most ideas are based on other folks' thinking or something that people saw, then we've been going about innovation all wrong. Because most organizations would go about innovation by simply getting smart people, the folks you were suggesting, the creative people in their organization, to sit around a table and be brilliant. Well, there's a much better way to be innovative, and that's actually to kind of get out and engage the world and look for these 99% of ideas and use those as the starting point for being brilliant. Well, if that's the case, all of us have the ability to do that. And remember, a little while ago, we talked about the fact that as kids, we were all remarkably curious, and we all were willing to kind of get out there, ask questions, try new things. It was the way that we learned. So, my firm belief is as adults, we can get that curiosity back, and that by exploring the world around us, engaging with other people and other places, whether we wander around the neighborhood we're in or we travel somewhere that's different than where we live, by simply getting out there and exposing ourselves to a world filled with ideas, we create the starting point for all of us to be remarkably innovative. I'd love to also suggest, I once wrote that each day I pass 100 people who could change my life. I just never take the time to connect with them. And so I believe that's the case, and I need to do a better job. It's probably the reason why I actually talk to strangers. A lot of people find that kind of challenging to do, but it's all around the notion of kind of being remarkable and being geniuses. Now,
Right.
let's go back for a second to the idea of surrounded by geniuses, because that book came to me when I was thinking about all of the companies and organizations I was working with and realizing that most of them were stuck kind of living in the past. And what I mean by the past is they'd been very successful in the past. And so they assumed in the present and the future, they'd continue to be successful by doing the exact same things that they'd done in the past. As all of us know, and as you know very well from the work you do, in order for human beings to learn and grow, they need to move forward. And it's the same for people in organizations and the same for organizations. Well, if I live in the past, I tend to believe I know most of the things that I need to know. And I tend to get very kind of myopic in thinking about the world. I tend to think our industry is really smart. We really know the best things to do. I'm awesome as a leader. I know the right things to do. And I don't need to learn new things or new ideas in order to succeed. Well, nothing can be further from the truth. In order to be successful today, we need to absolutely be present, of course. We need to live in the present, but we also need to live a bit in the future. And your listeners are probably going to say, this guy's a little bit crazy, but we need to live in the present, but also have an eye toward the future. And also be thinking about where the world is going, where customers are going, and what I need to learn and do in order to be successful in a world that's changing super fast. So, Surrounded by Geniuses is a book about how I get out of simply thinking about the world I'm in and kind of our industry or my profession or the expertise I have, and be open to a world literally filled with ideas. What do people know in other disciplines? What could I learn from history? What could I learn from popular culture? What could I learn from nature? There's so many domains of life in which there's so much compelling learning that would spark me to think in new ways about what's possible. And so that's what the book is really about, is opening people's ideas and minds to this big world filled with possibilities and getting them unstuck from the kind of small world that all of us would kind of hang out in if we didn't have an openness to new possibilities.
Right. It's absolutely correct what you're saying. And we all want that, and I think sometimes a timely push and a timely reminder gets us back on track. And, Alan, one of your specialities is doing sessions on creativity and innovation. And, when you say creativity and innovation in a general sense, people think, oh, it's very scientist based or very artist based. So, how does one capture that and incorporate it in his or her daily life? That should innovation and creativity be a lifestyle? I think it would be so much fun, if no matter what I do, I habitually or principally am in the creative zone and always innovating? So A, is that possible? B, give me some tips on how a common person who claims to have a common job can do that.
Okay, great. Well, I think there are a few things we need to think about. If I had the ability to advise people and they didn't have the constraints of the place they worked in, I think
Mhm.
it's pretty easy to live a life that's much more creative and innovative. I think,
Mhm.
unfortunately, many of the folks who'll be listening in work in large or established organizations, and those organizations are a bit less flexible.
Right.
We come in, we look at all the things we need to do, and we suddenly say to ourselves, this is going to be a long day. I've got to just accomplish the things I need to do. Um,
Yes.
and so what we need to do is we can't probably be creative all the time. We have stuff we need to get done, but we just need to be creative at the right times. Creative in
Mm.
the sense that we're always looking at the stuff we're doing and saying, is there a better way? Or we're
Right.
looking at how we interact with those we serve and saying, is there a better way to meet their needs? If I
Mm.
can identify that that's the case, then that sparks me to have a burst of kind of
Mm.
innovation and creativity. And the best way to do that is to simply get up from our desks and get out of our offices or wherever we work. And the reason
Mm.
I say that is wherever we work or at our desks is kind of what we're stuck in the middle of. It's the way we think today, and it's not a place that really challenges us to think in new and more creative ways. So simply getting up and realizing there's a big world with new possibilities challenges us to think differently. Then I would challenge people regularly, and maybe it's once a week, or maybe for some people it's only once a month, but take some time to get up and wander around, looking at kind of businesses, especially new businesses, going to museums, especially kind of modern art museums, or even science or technology museums, going into neighborhoods that are hip and kind of vibrant, going to performances by relatively new artists who somehow have fused different types of art to create kind of their own genre of what they do. But go to places where things are new and start to say to yourself, what's remarkable about what I'm experiencing? And how can that idea of what's remarkable be applied to what I do each day? Um, if I can get people to start thinking that way, then I suddenly change the equation. But again, let's go back to what we were talking about. It's the idea that I don't want to just live in the past. I want to live in the present and the future. I want to see what's going on in the world around me and see if there's some things going on in the world around me that would make me act differently and make my organization do different things. And then I want to say, based on what I'm seeing, where's the world going? Can I make some projections about the future and where I need to get to in order to be successful? And then that sparks my thinking. But I think first and foremost, it's kind of getting up and wandering around. And that's really the heart of what I begin each project with, is simply exposing people to other ideas. Now, if any of your listeners would like ideas about where to go, I could be more specific, just have them reach out to me, and I'm glad to share some ideas based on what they're trying to accomplish. But it's this
Yes.
idea of being open. I'd also suggest that people read new things. I'd suggest that people put themselves in places that are maybe not so comfortable. I have a really weird habit, and that is I try each year to go to 2 conferences in which I know absolutely nothing about what the conference
For
is about.
example, which one did you go to?
Well, so this year, if we think about it, I mean, I can't say I know nothing. I read a lot, and I'm guessing that a lot of your viewers read a lot, but I don't know a lot about energy and environmental sustainability. And it's something that I was curious about. And so I decided to go to a symposium that was held in Washington, D.C., on kind of the state of the art about how we can get to a more sustainable future. It was fascinating to me. I took a lot of notes. I had a lot of ideas based on that, not just of what I could do as a person to kind of improve my global footprint, but what many of our customers could do to think differently about how to use resources differently, whether it was about environmental sustainability or not. I've gone to conferences in the last couple of years about healthcare. I mean, I do a fair amount of work with healthcare organizations, but I can't say I'm an expert in that. And so I'm going to see what are best practices. I went to a conference on personalized medicine, just because I think it's something we ought to know about, but it's not something I know very much about at all. But it left me very optimistic that someday we'll be able to unravel our DNA or our genome, and that doctors or researchers will be able to figure out new ways to treat us based on knowing more about us. Right now, it's that they come up with therapies that apply to lots of people, and they work for some and they don't work for others. And so imagine if someday we could come up with therapies that were specifically targeted to you or me or any of the people watching this. That's kind of a cool thing. So I pick
Right.
topics certainly that are interesting to me and I think are timely. And I'm trying to look at what can I learn as a person, but also what are some of the lessons or insights that might be valuable to the folks that I work with.
How cool is that? I'm very happy you said that. I resonate with it because every year I learn a new skill. You know that it has nothing to do with my writing or my speaking, but it just helps, expand my, I would say, beingness. That you never know when what comes in handy, and it also makes me a little more resourceful. I'm so happy to hear that. Alan, you said one thing that everybody can be creative and enhance creativity, and it's simple things like how can I do this better, how can I serve better, and so on, and finding obviously creative ways to do it. That also comes with a very high sense of ownership and responsibility. I feel only a person who feels that they are accountable and they want to do something in life will think like that. So and as you were saying it, I was also totaling up that all the geniuses that we know, people who've done brilliant things, are also very high on taking charge. They are also very high on ownership, accountability, and responsibility. So I think if that is sorted, creativity and innovation comes as a compelling drive from that foundation. Do
Well,
you also think
absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. Now, think about people in a couple different kind of career paths and how this might apply. So what you've said is really important, and it's the reason why an awful lot of people aren't as creative as they should be in organizations. Many organizations, in fact, I'd argue most around the world now, spend a lot of time thinking about their vision and what they're trying to accomplish as an organization. What they don't spend a lot of time doing is making sure that everyone feels connected to that vision and engaging every single person in making a clear link between what they do and their organization being successful. If I make that clear link, it's possible in an existing organization for people to be creative and innovative and remarkable. I know what I'm responsible for. Now I go out and figure out the best way to do it. But when an organization doesn't do that, I simply deal with all the things that are in my inbox. In the past, it was an actual inbox. That's why we call it an inbox. In today's world, it's kind of my digital inbox. I have all these emails I need to respond to. I have these meetings I need to go to. I need to be on a Zoom call. I need to do all kinds of things. And before I know it, the day is gone. I haven't been innovative at all. But if an organization says, you really matter to us, we need your ideas, we need your part of the organization to be even more remarkable than it is, now I have kind of license to do that, and I'm open to doing that. And I suddenly say to myself, how can I be creative? The other, of course, is I decide that I don't fit in well in an organization, or I haven't found an organization that really values my ideas and my contribution, so I decide to be more entrepreneurial. There, just to survive, I have to figure out how to do something valuable. I have to do something in the marketplace that hasn't been done before, or do something that's being done better than anybody else. So it challenges me to be way more creative and way more energized about what's possible. So I think in both those respects, it's important for people to think about kind of how you create the right context to be innovative. But I absolutely agree with you. And that is, we all have the ability to do remarkable things. It's just we have to put ourselves in a place in which it's possible to do remarkable things. And we all have to keep learning and growing and being open to new possibilities. And that's why I'm constantly figuring out kind of how to learn and grow and do new things. Um, there are lots of other opportunities too. I don't have to just go to conferences, though that might be fun. I don't have to just wander around, though that's my preferred mode for kind of learning and sparking things. And one of the reasons I like wandering around is I see a business that's remarkable. I actually walk in and start talking to the people there. I learn an awful lot really quickly. But I can take classes online. I can learn a new skill by going on YouTube. It's remarkable to me the amount of knowledge and insight and know-how that people have put up on YouTube. So if I have something that I want to learn, like how to bake the perfect carrot cake or how to repair the plumbing in my kitchen, chances are I can go onto YouTube and somebody who knows how to do that is willing to share their ideas. So there's lots of opportunity to kind of learn and grow. I just have to be open to it. And I have to have a mindset. I think a lot of the work that you do is talking with people about having the right mindset, in essence, about really kind of figuring out how to put yourself in a place where you can kind of do remarkable things, where you can reach your full potential. And part of the mindset for me is, if I'm curious, then I always want to learn new things. And then I just have to seek out ways to learn things.
That's really, really awesome. I like how you express it. So I also want to know, Alan, that when you do these workshops for corporations and for groups, what's your methodology? Because I feel creativity and innovation is a very hands-on thing. So do you make people do things? How does one unleash that?
So I have a bunch of variations of the things I do. So in an ideal world, I would take teams of people out kind of exploring the world around them.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Nice.
and so we'd explore a city, whether that's New York or Delhi or
Oh, nice.
Shanghai or London or Stockholm. And we've taken people exploring in 22 different cities around the world. And so I enjoy doing that. When I don't have that opportunity and I'm doing a keynote presentation or as part of a conference, I like to bring part of the world in with me. And I like
Mhm.
to begin by exposing people to corners of the world that I think are relevant to what they're trying to accomplish, and then lead them into thinking in kind of very interactive ways about how to take these ideas and apply them. I can say proudly or pathetically that I have no idea how to put together a PowerPoint presentation. I show up at a presentation with a suitcase filled with props and ideas. They can be an airplane or a drone or a cell phone or an apartment building or a doctor, a toy doctor, of course, with a stethoscope, or a giant jar of juice, or a sample of an herb found in nature that's still used in a pharmaceutical today, or a dog or a horse or all manner of animals, or a cricket bat or something like that. And I tend to tell a story around these of an innovation that occurred. Um, and then I use that to kind of spark people's thinking. Then I challenge people to think about, what does it take to really be remarkable? What does it mean to be remarkable? And then we often, even in a big audience, I give them things to think about, whether they pair off in small groups, but something kind of really energizing to think about. So what I'd like to do is, if I can't take people out, I'd like to bring the world to them. And I'd like to quickly, it's kind of in a rapid fire way, take them on a race around the world just to see how innovation occurs and how they can be remarkable.
Oh, that's awesome. It's been 28 years. I keep saying 27. It's been 28 years that I've been a speaker, and I do not use a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, good
You
for you.
you put me with a presentation and I'm lost.
Right.
People use it for directions. I'm a writer. I get a whiteboard and I have a pen and I write. And when we took over your courses, the courses that Alan, this is for my viewers, did was on creativity and innovation, surrounded by geniuses and necessity of strangers. I was half expecting, like when I look at your background, when I look at the depth of knowledge you had, I thought there would be a PPT and notes, and you came up with the globe and you came up with other things, and it caught my interest. Like, I will tell you, I was the first student who actually piloted your online workshops, and I had this doubt that creativity and innovation, online, I'm not 100% sure how that would be, but you made it so engaging. You sparked my imagination just by being different, just by bringing in all of those props. It was just so cool that I did all the 3 workshops myself. And then I sent it to other people that, I wanted to know if there are other people also who feel the same way. So I think this methodology is brilliant. It sparks imagination. Technology can only help so much, but we cannot dilute the impact of real factors. And I think that's the genuineness that you bring in all of your programs. And I've been fortunate enough to read your books and attend your programs. So that is
Well,
awesome.
well, thank you. No, I think it really gets at the notion that and that doesn't mean that there aren't people doing wonderful PowerPoint presentations, but really
Yeah.
PowerPoint is about kind of conveying facts and information, and innovation is really sparking people's thinking about what's possible. I don't know when I enter a room who's going to be there, but I know that all of them have the potential to be brilliant, and my job is to really help them to be brilliant and to help organizations to be brilliant. And I think I do this by showing them that they're not alone and that the world is filled with kind of remarkable ideas. And I challenge them to kind of look at these props and these stories and these ideas as kind of an opening to imagining a story that they and their colleagues might write about how to be remarkable and brilliant.
That's awesome. And Alan, I have one last question out of curiosity. You are a corporate leader, somebody who takes the stage and speaks to people. And generally, when you research about them, go onto their website, you see this guy dressed in this fancy suit and, stuff like that. And I open your website and you're with the backpack and these wonderful glasses. And it's like, where's the suit? So I like the persona. It's very real. And I did ask you this a couple of times. How do you pull it off? Being yourself on screen everywhere.
Well, I think all of us need to show up as who we are, but the world doesn't always give us the opportunity to do that. I think one
Yes.
of the advantages I have, maybe having a bit of gray hair, is that I kind of can get away with stuff. So if you look at my website or you see me when I appear someplace, I love color,
Hmm.
and if I think about actually my favorite of the Indian holidays, Holi, it's really a festival about
Oh,
color.
wow.
The world is filled with color. The world is colorful. Innovation is colorful. Um, Innovation is really about kind of getting out there and making the world a better place. And so I want to engage the world head on, but I want to do it in a way that shows that I feel comfortable being part of the world. I'm going to wear a lot of bright colors. I do wear these funny glasses. I mean, there's a story behind the glasses. I started wearing glasses when I was 5 years old. And some of your kind of listeners or viewers might have had a similar experience of being the only kid in their class who wore glasses. And when I was young, glasses were really dorky. There was like a brown variety and a black variety, and people called you all kinds of things depending on what culture you were in. Well, once I found out there were pretty cool glasses, I was determined to wear cool glasses. I was determined to wear kind of bright colored clothes, and I'm determined to wear a backpack for 2 reasons. One is I carry stuff around. It's good to drink water and be hydrated, and I probably need a few snacks along the way. But the other is to simply tell people or suggest to them that the idea of wearing a backpack, of getting out, of wandering, exploring, collecting ideas, putting them in the backpack, and bringing them back to our place of work is a vitally important idea. And so I'd like to create this image that I'm out there helping people to engage the world, explore the world, wander around, find ideas, learn in new ways, and that the world is filled with all kinds of color and energy. And if we think of ourselves as being kind of stiff and corporate, and the world is probably going to pass us by, because someone hipper and more colorful is going to come along with a new and better way to do things.
And that's very, very nice. I like the fact that your work and your personality, they are a perfect match. So I like that. That's the kind of person I would trust, and that's the kind of person I am always excited to learn from. Thank you for being you, Alan. It was so wonderful chatting with you, and I am going to put out your courses and your books to my viewers and readers. And I can vouch saying that I was greatly benefited by it, and I hope the same for them. And continue writing and continue coming up with more courses.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here, and thanks for the opportunity to share ideas. And as I tell everyone, if anyone hears this or watches this and would love to connect with me and is looking for just an idea to spark their curiosity and creativity and innovation, they simply need to kind of find me and send me a note, and I'm delighted to be helpful. Thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alan. More power to you. And I look forward for another conversation with you. In fact, I'm going to do a LinkedIn Live where I would like to engage people live with you so they can also have a conversation with you.
Perfect. Okay, awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alan.